everybody, and welcome to AI People. Today we're talking to Manouk Draisma, who is co-founder at LangWatch, which is an LLM evaluation platform. Greetings, Manouk.
Hey, nice to meet you, or great to be here.
So we always kick off the podcast by asking you to make a few predictions about the AI industry as a whole. I'm aware AI is a very difficult industry to predict, but it's just interesting to get some data points, I think, on where people feel we're at the moment. So first question is, how do you see humans and AI collaborating with regard to work in 5 years' time and then in 15 years' time?
Yeah, the predictions with AI are always complicated, right? So much happening, and especially over the last couple of 2 years, and so much learning for all of us. I think in a day-to-day work, AI will 100% in 5 years' time be incorporated in any organization, and where it's not just as AI systems, but literally as assistants and active, or not just assistants, but more like partners in the entire decision-making process. So not only your AI agent or assistant, but entirely the decision-making process there. I think 15 years away, much more to come. I think LLM models will be more and more, it will be more competitive in terms of the different models out there. Smaller models, I predict that as well, that becomes already earlier, I think, more available and more important, I think, as well. And I hope from a human perspective then that a lot of the jobs like lawyers, but also doctors in the health industry, that's what I see today is a lot of administration work, and that can be focused much more on the human itself instead of that part of the job.
Yeah, okay. And how close do you feel that we are to AGI? You can use your kind of own definition, because I realize that has a big bearing on the answer. But do you think it's something that's kind of not too far away now, or we're still kind of 30, 40 years away, which kind of keeps moving on?
Yeah, indeed, depends on what's meant with it, and some say it's already there, some say it's not, right? I think that the further away or the farthest away definition of AGI, hard to tell. I think it's more or less about how we're gonna react on it and how we're gonna be working with it as humans.
Yeah,
that's
okay.
The question.
And looking into the future, how do you see AI reshaping the global economy? Do you think it's going to lead to more wealth inequality, or do you think it's going to help narrow gaps in opportunity for a wider number of people?
It will for sure. It will have inequality, but I think it will also solve a lot of aspects on closing job labor, the missing parts in jobs at the moment. But I think on the other hand, it will be more and more important that the work which cannot be replaced with AI, that we will move into that direction, and that has more to do with actual working with our hands or working with human being. But overall, I think a lot of the tasks which we're doing now on a day-to-day basis with this, could be a customer service or outbound sales call or anything like that. If we can automate that more and more often, then there will be time left for other things, and whether we're going to spend that personally in our day-to-day activities or more free, or we're going to expand our knowledge and our brains into other directions.
Yeah, okay. And I feel like AI as an industry seems more like a soap opera than most areas of technology because there's kind of big news that coming out every 2 weeks and we're kind of launching from one aspect to the next. I wonder kind of what's the most recent kind of news story in the AI industry which caught your eye?
Well, every week there's definitely something happening. I think that the most recent one is the launch then of Grok with a K 3, which is, I think, especially impressive what they've been able to build in I think only 1.5 years time spent,
Hmm.
and what they were able to build in such a short period of time, and almost has the same capabilities of what they open of the open public best models of OpenAI,
Hmm.
which is kind of impressive.
Yeah, okay. So before we jump into talking about LangWatch, I just wondered if you could just introduce yourself a little bit. Interested in your background growing up, kind of what's kind of taken you along your journey really from, I think you studied media and marketing originally and then kind of moved
Was
into e-commerce and
Yeah.
ended up in the AI industry. How did all that happen?
Yeah, for sure. So growing up, I come from a very entrepreneurial family, and I think everyone from my dad, mom, uncles, aunts, everyone is an entrepreneur in our family, sister, brothers, everyone. But I started my journey indeed at a startup after I did my studies, and media at that time was a very, marketing was a very thing I wanted to do, but then I saw the e-commerce bumping up, and I saw that that's something I want to be part of. So I joined a startup at very early on, very beginning of the startup ages. First sales job in my life, never done sales before, but nailed it. And that company grew quite a lot, and we got acquired by a Canadian company, and then went IPO. So that was an amazing roller coaster going up.
Hmm.
Have been holding various different jobs, from partnerships to customer success, everything in go-to-market, business development, etc., which taught me obviously everything I need to know while running a startup nowadays.
Yeah.
But as I just said, I was the only one in my family who didn't own a company yet. So I thought, hey, now it's time to build one. And after seeing one success from startup to IPO, and then I was at a startup which went a little bit less good. So also tons of learnings of when it's not going well. So taking them along into building LangWatch, that tons of learnings there.
And did it just seem like a natural move to kind of move into the AI industry at that point, or was there anything sort of from the previous company which gave you that kind of seed to start the new company?
Well, the moment where I decided, yes, now I'm going to build my own company, basically, that's a month after ChatGPT was launched. So kind
Okay,
of,
yeah,
yes, it
the
was
stars
all
aligned.
out
Yeah.
there and everything else, but it wasn't my first thought on building LangWatch. So initially I started within, just for fun, an AI sommelier and wine recommender for restaurants, because
Okay.
was working in an industry where we sold to restaurants. um, but there I discovered mostly that I had no clue how users were interacting with it, how I could get some sort of control over it, and also collaborate with my engineer. I knew or know a lot, and we had some sommeliers judging on the output and such. But how do we actually bring that content back to the AI engineers to improve and to improve the models and so on? So it was more like an experiment and a nice little side project where I worked on. But there I discovered mostly, hey, how can it be that LLMs, how non-deterministic they are, and how we're going to control them, and that's different cookie than we're monitoring software. So that was the first discovery. Then I met Rogerio, or we already knew each other, but we were focusing on the same product problem. And Rogerio is our CTO, and he was at that time working at Booking.com on different AI projects, and experienced the same problem. And then we said, we're gonna join together and do this together.
Yeah, so do you want to kind of introduce kind of what language does and the problems that you solve for customers?
Yeah, for sure. LangWatch is an LLM ops platform to evaluate and monitor the LLM applications from the beginning till the end, where we're having a bunch of different evaluations. You can build your own evaluations, which is, by the way, the most interesting topic, I think, today, while discussing the needs on enterprise level about evaluations. What do I actually quality control of, and covers as well the entire prompt management and making sure that you can switch and shift different models. Like I said, every day a new model is coming up and popping up.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to move to a cheaper model or the newest model out there, you want to know that the quality remains the same. And that's what we are enabling our AI teams with, and making sure that if there's something changed in the prompt or the model, that what comes out of it in production can remain the same. We do that with a high philosophy also in our minds to enable that for non-technical people as well, as we believe those are the key critical team members in teams to judge and to give feedback on the output and collaborate on how the prompt should work, and the LLM output should be improved.
And how does the LangWatch platform kind of impact time to market for kind of development teams?
Well, in the way that what we've seen right now is that a lot of products stay in proof of concept phase, right? And that's either because the board says I'm afraid because what happens with our data, or how can users break into it, or what if the AI is not right about what we're saying. So there should be a matter of that you have that under control, and whether that's the quality metrics which you have defined as an AI team of this should be the accuracy, as an example, as a number, right? And over time we want to improve that, but that you at least have some sort of a benchmark to improve that. And with that, we give the confidence to teams to put that out in the open and enable that, with more and more users to come on board, and having automatic triggers when something goes off the rails, and making sure that you can resolve them quickly and react on them also quickly.
Okay, so it's about kind of reducing the risk, which allows you to kind of reduce that time to market. Is that the idea?
Yeah, that's 100% part of it. And then secondly, we have an automatic way to find the right prompt and model for your use case. So aside from the fact that we're having that monitoring evaluation piece, which is critical to any organization in putting their LLM apps into production, we have that part of not spending hours and hours on finding that right prompt and combination and few set examples, but we're using the SPY there as the framework in our platform to optimize that more quickly and faster, actually, which makes iterations into LLM app development way quicker and faster.
So you mentioned the kind of non-deterministic nature of the kind of LLM models. Like how do you ensure that, like, through that optimization process, that things are kind of remaining reproducible and scalable in different use cases, different industries? How does that work?
Sorry, can you repeat what you said at the beginning?
So I'm just saying, like, obviously you mentioned that kind of LLMs are kind of non-deterministic by nature. So how does LangWatch kind of ensure that something is reproducible and scalable in different industries?
Yeah. So I mean, on the other end, that's also the powerful part of it, right? So it can produce in tons of different ways the same answer with a very human point of view, and I think therefore it's very critical to define as AI teams, what do I want to get out of it? So what are the edge cases, and how can I control that? So really setting that evaluation framework up from the beginning, and knowing where you want to have your quality about or about from. And that's where the point where evaluations come into place. And like I said at the beginning, it's very critical, but it's also one of the most difficult tasks to do, because what is quality, and we as humans sometimes give different answers, and then the same could be good, right? But a marketing manager would maybe say something different about the company than the sales manager. So how are you going to make sure that that's going to be controllable in a way?
And obviously, security is a big concern when deploying LLMs, especially in sensitive industries. Like, how do you help ensure, compliance and safety issues, get addressed, like jailbreak detection, ethical considerations? Like, what kind of support do you offer customers there?
Yeah, good question, because that's one of the biggest reasons why a lot of enterprises come to LangWatch, basically, as in we've seen some cases where we've put it out in production, and then before they came to us, and then someone jailbreak their solution and figured out what the system prompt was, as an example.
Okay.
And then, is that a huge security issue for them at that moment? Perhaps not, but the board was kind of like, okay, scary. What happened here, right? So, and that's the moment where you need to think about, okay, what am I going to do? Am I going to set up a red teaming kind of perspective and way of getting those alerts, or setting up guardrails as an example? And those are critical to a lot of customer facing solutions, right? If you put it out there. So yes, we enable our teams or our customers with jailbreak detection, personal information detection, redacted, but also can be guarded from it, business sensitive information, if that's thrown out, as an example. I think overall LLM models will be becoming more and more better in detecting jailbreaking or prompt injection overall, but it remains important to control over it. So we enable them with a numbers of guardrails available in our platform, but basically can bring on board any guardrail via API through the platform to keep on monitoring. That's basically the goal. So very customer specific as well.
Yeah, okay. And model experimentation is obviously a key part of the process in optimizing LLMs. Like, how does your optimization studio help companies to kind of rapidly experiment with different configurations?
Hey, you mean with different models, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so got it. So yeah, the optimization studio is built for that. So that's basically the latest launch we've done with LangWatch, where we allow you to literally use any model available in the market, or bring your own model or locally hosted model, where you first get the ability to evaluate based on a certain data set and use all of the evaluators out there. So that's kind of the offline evaluation methodology. And then you can see the performance of each model with a certain data set and evaluate that over time, and experiment with the different models, see the cost, latency, whether the evaluation failed, what was the best outcome, did tone of voice, was the tone of voice better, did this model or the other model, and such, and so forth, which allows teams to way more quickly move from one model to another model. It's more about experimentation, though. We do see that at least most enterprises remain with the same, at least, provider, and then move to a next version of a model. But switching to a complete different model, it happens, but less often.
Yeah, okay. And which do you integrate with other AI tools, like in part of the tech stack? I mean, what parts of the development process do you cover, and which parts do you kind of integrate with other tools for?
Yeah, we really believe in the part of that it's already a huge task to get that monitoring evaluation right. So we really want to focus on that part of getting control over that monitoring, evaluation, optimization. So the building parts, that's something we partner up with. So a big partner of ours is an example, Langflow from DataStax, where lots of different teams are building solutions, proof of concepts, and putting them out in production. But the moment they are going to production, they need certain tools as monitoring evaluation, which we can bring into as a component in their product. So that's a pretty good partnership over there. We're also not like we have built evaluators ourselves, but we also believe that there are great open source evaluators out there in the market. So those one we obviously bring over to the platform as well, similar to guardrails, and allow you to build custom evaluations yourself. So that's pretty awesome there as well.
Yeah, and are there, the other kind of vendors in the market, do they allow you to build your own evaluations as well, or is that kind of unique to what you're doing?
As far as we know, that's the way we do that. That's super unique. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And just kind of thinking about kind of LLM ops, as an industry, as a market, I think a lot of companies are kind of grappling with how they scale their LLM applications. Like, how do you see LLM ops evolving in the future as an industry, and where does LangWatch kind of fit into that evolution?
Yeah. I almost see it like where we needed, now I'm going back to my e-commerce days, but we needed payment solutions, and we had our PSPs, right? So the payment service providers as a whole, which incorporated all different kind of solutions. And that's the LLM ops market right now. And it's at the very beginning of it and the very start. I think what is where it's moving up to and what's becoming more critical are setting the right evaluation framework for it. And there are tons of different tools for it. But there comes also a lot of internal knowledge with that, right? So getting the right flow out there and getting the right metrics and framework in there is becoming more and more important.
And obviously, one of the key factors for companies building LLM applications is cost. The cost of serving the models is huge, and DeepSeek has obviously kind of been a big news in that industry. Does LangWatch help companies to kind of optimize the cost performance ratio at all, or is that kind of not so involved in what you're doing?
Yeah, it's something you can do with our platform. So we did see, or we do see that it is not important so much at the experimentation level. And hey, I need a solution for my HR team, for example, and we build a proof of concept, and then the moment it's going to scale and all the people at 10,000 of people in the company are going to use that tool, well, yeah, then it's going to become more important, right? So that cost aspect is at a certain level or at certain companies super important to decrease over time. So what we help with is, okay, if you then choose to move to an open source model and you decide that you want to move there, which could lower the cost, is the quality going to be the same? And actually, are the servers then which you're hosting yourself, what are the costs of that? Is that actually going to decrease? So that's an insight we can give. And then for the optimization of the cost specifically, something very much hot topic at the moment. So lots of thoughts being made there on how to improve that. Yeah.
And interested in kind of your experience of working with different industries. Like, do you see some industries where they're much more aware of the kind of evaluation topics which you're talking about, and other industries where there's a bit more of an education process on your side to kind of tell them, you need to be aware of this, and perhaps they're not at the moment?
Oh, good question. I'm not sure if I see that in the different industries. We have a high focus on B2B2C organizations, so where they typically have large customer service teams and organizations and such, where this typically helps. I think more industry. I'm not sure if I can pinpoint this to industry, but more of level of expertise. So the moment we're speaking with teams where there is an AI researcher in the team, as an example, that's actually the moment where they have thought through the entire evaluation process and know exactly how they want and how they want to incorporate it. If we're talking to teams who have been working with LLMs for the past 2 years, but originally come from a software engineering perspective, that's the moment where more guidance is required and needed, which we obviously then help towards too as well.
So it doesn't kind of make a difference which industry they're in. It's more just kind of the maturity level of their development teams.
Yeah, so if I see it correctly, yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So just thinking about some more broader kind of AI trends, like one of the things which is gaining a lot of traction at the moment is like multimodal AI. So kind of integrating images and video and audio with kind of LLMs. How does that impact on the LLM ops space, particularly, and particularly areas like content creation, data analysis? How does that impact that?
Yeah, cool. We have seen a few cases coming by, or a couple of cases coming by right now with both images and voice, and evaluating that. How we do see it today is that an image gets an output basically on what the image is and if that's correct with what they actually wanted to, and that's where we evaluate then the quality on. So basically, it says what the image is looking like, and then we're evaluating that output. Very customer specific use cases here, by the way, similar to voice. Yeah.
Okay. And there's a lot of conversation at the moment in the industry around governance and risks of AI drift, where models are kind of evolving unpredictably, like over time. Like how do you see kind of AI governance frameworks developing, and do you kind of support that, or is that something that the market will evolve towards?
Yeah, very important, and super critical in lots of different industries and areas. We prefer and rather work with AI consultants and AI compliancy consultants. The obvious thing you need is observability, right? So to be compliant with the EU AI Act, as an example, you need to understand how the answer has been generated. So observability is key there, and that's where we're heading to, or are helping our teams and consultants with. That's crucial.
And, you know, following on from governance, like ethics and bias is another kind of really big topic in AI. I mean, how do you see kind of bias correction techniques now and where they need to be, you know, to kind of get them to solve some of these issues?
Yeah, great question, and also something I'd very much something we want to solve with all of us, right? But as human being, we're also biased. So how can we judge that an LLM is biased versus we ourselves are biased, and how we're going to solve that over time, or at least how we're going to solve that matter, and that's also starting by us ourselves, human. I think key critical thing right now, and what most companies are doing, or at least what we are seeing, is identify it, and make sure you see what's happening, and then you can react and further develop on whether that's into your explanation on it, or whether that's true or it's actually improving and the models and such, or the output there. But first things first is understanding what's happening and when it's happening. So getting control or bias evaluations out there is important.
And how good are the models, or how good are the technology now at identifying those biases, or is that still difficult to do and there's much more work that needed there?
Yeah, there's quite some work to do there still, and something we're looking forward to see how that develops over time.
Yeah, okay. So thinking just more around the kind of process of building a startup in the AI industry. I mean, obviously there's a constant balancing act between developing the product, bringing on new customers, you know, growing the team. How do you manage those competing priorities, you know, especially in a very, very fast moving industry like AI?
Yeah, and I love it. I mean, the fast moving industry then. We've always stayed very close to our first group of customers, making sure that what we built was being built for them, less looking at the competition, but more or less really listening to them. What are the critical key needs they have today? That's now shifting towards more broader skills. So that also means that we need different team members on the team, expanding our team with multiple engineers as well as AI solution engineer. We're going to help setting that evaluation framework for customers specifically and helping them onboarding there. Balancing it between sales, product, success, so customer success, and everything around that. I think investment funding is also key critical there. I'm super glad that I found the most smartest CTO on earth. He's amazing, and not only on the tech side, but also getting it done with customers and helping onboarding there. So that's amazing.
And how do you balance trying to deliver that original core vision that you had, like when you built the company, between being light and nimble to kind of pivot to kind of needs which are coming from customers or different solutions which are coming to market? Like how do you balance those two things?
Yeah, good question, because it obviously changed quite a bit over time, and not per se on the vision. I think our vision is super clear, and that's making sure that AI teams all over the world and companies all over the world are able to launch their applications with confidence, and making sure that what they build is good out there and of quality, and making sure that the risks aside are going to be less. And now and then features are coming up which might be irrelevant or might be not related, but in the end of the day, we're solving the pains of the problem, the pains of the customers, right? So if that's going to solve them today within the scope of what we're enabling them to reach, then obviously that's something we need and want to build. Then there is an aspect of smaller versus enterprise companies, and then we come to the fact that where cloud and SaaS was always important, now self-hosted and on-premise delivery is super important. That's going to be a huge shift towards selling it, onboarding it, pricing, and that all requires some shift in strategies and vision overall.
And we were talking a little bit before we started that you're kind of in the process of kind of raising some money and a kind of a new round of funding coming into the company. I just wonder that there's a lot of talk at the moment about, how the US has this huge lead, from an AI perspective. What's been your experience of building a European kind of AI company? Have you found any kind of challenges, which kind of you wouldn't necessarily if you're a US company?
Maybe not a challenge per se for ourselves, but yeah, we do see that companies having a less good product in the US can raise a couple of millions, versus in Europe that's a little bit more difficult. We do see that difference here as well. On the other hand, I think we are more aware of. We're better into prioritizing what is the real pain and need and nitty-gritty, which is solving for our customers today, versus building lots of different things which maybe are less important. And we can also learn from the mistakes built over there, right? So if what they do there and maybe not so relevant, do we do that? No, okay, we've learned from it and we do it all over again here. So or differently here. I think it's a tons of learning we can get out of there, and money is not the biggest solver of a lot of things, but it's helpful.
Yeah. Okay. And when you're kind of growing the company, growing the team, when you're hiring beyond the skills involved in doing the job, what are the key kind of personality traits which you're looking for when you're hiring somebody? What do you see as being the core of the culture that you're trying to build?
Yeah, I always love building cultures at any company I've worked for so far. I think at this early stage, beginning of it, we're looking for people in the team who wear multiple hats, multiple different jump into a customer call while they're actually normally developing the solution, right? So that's super important. I think looking at working together, we're sitting next to each other in the office, although we're also hiring remotely, so a mix towards that aspect. Is it fun to work with them? I think that's a super critical thing we're looking towards as well. I always hire smarter people than myself, or try to hire smarter people than myself. That's number one thing. And depends on the job, but definitely enthusiasm, winner's mentality, curiosity into this space is super important. You've been in that, or not so much have been in a space, but really want to find out what's the next thing we need to do, for example.
And last question, what advice would you give to some other entrepreneur out there who's thinking about building a startup in the AI industry at the moment?
Just do it.
Do it quickly before someone else does.
Well, no, not per se. I mean more about entrepreneurship overall, not so much about AI startups. But I think starting with it, and you will manage to do it. I think that's the biggest thing. Have a great network around you, making sure that you have lots of different connections, speak with other founders, entrepreneurs, and everyone else to really nail that down. And then AI specifically, you mentioned, right, or not?
Yeah, well, just building in kind of the AI industry. There's so much development happening at the moment, isn't there? So many new companies coming to market.
Yeah, then I do believe that what I see with our customers is that go deep into a vertical, whether that's, I don't know, industrial, solving a key pain point in very old school driven industrial field service kind of thing, or construction as an example, the construction industry, lots of things to automate and lots of things to solve. I think the biggest challenge there is in the verticalization is that AI can be anxious, so it's more like a teaching problem about in the activation and the sales process. Well, what we're selling, or I'm selling today, is something people are aware of, right? So they really have the problem. And if you want to bring an AI startup to companies who don't really know what AI is, as an example, that's maybe difficult, but there is a lot of opportunity there.
Yeah, sure. Well, it's been great having you on today. If people want to get in touch, what's the best way to reach you? Like email, LinkedIn, where do you live?
Yeah, both. You can call me, LinkedIn, email. That's all possible.
Well, thank you for your time, and thank you to everybody watching. Stay tuned for the next episode of AI People coming very soon.